All right, it's Thursday, June 26th, just following up on the QQQs. I discussed yesterday how I bought calls here near the end of the day on this green bar down here, anticipating that we would move higher. There was context to move higher in the big picture after a little bit of a pause day yesterday. Fortunately, we gapped up today, and I was able to initially scale out and set up an overage trade, and then you can see that on this red to green move, our first target here with these pre-market highs. And this is kind of an important inflection point both today and in the big picture, which I'll show you in a second. But for the moment, I was able to, I bought the calls yesterday, the 534 calls at I think 760. I scaled out at 960 near the open to set up an overage trade, and then I eventually scaled out at 1039 as it kind of hit this key inflection point, and we're going to see what happens. What's interesting here on the daily chart, the QQQs, which are a little stronger than the SPYs, have reached their all-time highs here. So this could be a major pause area. I mean, it could actually be a reversal area if it ends up doing that, but that's a long way off at the moment. What I can see happening is, since we've come all the way from these lows up to the highs and hit our target, this could be a major pause area, which can cause a lot of volatility in here. We could also break right on through. I understand that, but in the very short run here, you can see for these last 4 days, there's exhaustion risk. There's now exhaustion risk beginning in the big picture, so you got to be careful. And this gap up here did have a red to green target here, but we're going to have to see if it kind of holds the midpoint of the first bar and wants to continue higher today, or is this going to be the beginning of some choppiness and volatility? So anyway, just thought I'd point that out. We're going to let's look at the weekly chart here. This is after a lot of pausing. Not surprised to see that follow through to the all-time highs. That's what I was expecting. If we close strongly green this week, then you kind of expect us to at least test higher going into next week, and maybe we just continue, above the midpoint of each weekly bar and go up, up, up with no resistance at all. But it is possible too, let's say we close pretty strongly green, test those highs into next week, the high of this bar, then we come back to the open early in the week. That could be the beginning of a failure at a key inflection point, and we'll see if it can get through the midpoint of this bar. So those are the type of things I'm looking for. I think this week seems a little strong here to really reverse today and tomorrow, but it could lead into some interesting things going into next week in terms of that we're at a key inflection point here, which I know at a minimum is usually a pause area. So we'll see, if it breaks right on through and continues higher, that would be great. And that's kind of still the bias at the moment to continue higher, but we also know that it's at a key area. So again, not surprised to see it pausing here at the that first target intraday, and this is also an interesting area in the big picture too. So let's see what happens as the uptrend unfolds. Are we going to really break on through strongly to much higher highs, which is certainly possible, and if so, then we continue to play it that way. But let's see what unfolds for today. I don't know what's going to happen at this inflection point. If we just kind of hold the midpoint of this first bar, we could be making a whole secondary move up as well. So it's just a matter of letting price action lead the way as always. But for now, on this move that started up, there was definitely a target to these all-time highs. So, yesterday's pause was just a red bar that obviously is above the midpoint today and continuing higher until proven otherwise. But we'll see how this day and week ends, and how, then going into next week, how this bar, forms and what that means, for the potential of a continuation or failure.